Well, I love this list of the things that we survived if you're like a millennial or you're Gen X or even a boomer. The things that you went through in your childhood that would emotionally destroy kids today is what some people were saying on BuzzFeed. One was the nonstop bullying. Now, I think the good thing is we do have heightened awareness on bullying and we try to cut it off. But in our era, a lot of times with bullying, you were not met with the same kind of sympathy that you are today. And a lot of times you're told to suck it up or just punch him in the nose or whatever it might have been.
That's true.
So it's a kind of a different era now. Thankfully, they're trying to stamp out bullying, which is a good thing. But what about dodgeball in gym class? You remember how brutal that was? That really was a form of bullying as well. I remember people ganging up on people, and man, those things would sting. You had somebody that was a big old athlete on the other side of that, especially that small little dodgeball, the little red ones.
Yes.
The big fat ones are easy to catch, and they didn't really hurt. But if you took one of them small ones about the size of a baseball off the side of your cranium, it'll leave a mark.
Honestly, even tetherball could sometimes get a little vicious if you're not paying attention.
Tetherball, definitely.
I got caught up in that rope a few times. Or not looking, got hit right square in the face with that ball. I don't even know if they do that in school anymore.
Volleyball's hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, do they do tetherball in school? Because I feel like you're punching a ball. I don't know.
That thing never really worked well. And it was always unused on my playground. Nobody ever really played tetherball. Another thing that we survived that would emotionally destroy kids today, going all day at school without a water bottle.
That's true.
Remember we had to go to those terrible water fountains that they had that they didn't clean very well.
Oh,
they had all kinds of kids' drool all over them.
Well, some of them would have algae in it.
It would have crust.
They tasted like plants, and I always was behind the kid that would just put their entire mouth over the
whole thing. Yeah.
He would eat the crust.
You're going, how and why?
You were lucky if that crust was white, because sometimes it was green.
And sometimes it didn't get cold. It was just sun temperature.
Honestly, a basic thing that we all went through in our generations, the kids really don't today, and I think it's such a disservice to kids, being bored. And man, my whole childhood, I was an only child. When you didn't have any neighborhood kids to play with, it was just you and your thoughts and whatever little toys you had, and you had to make stuff happen. And kids just now, they're so overstimulated. Whether it be the video games or whatnot, they just have something that can plug them right in, and they don't need to have friends around because they can dial up with them on the video games.
I will say last night I was alone with just my thoughts, and it's really not as cool as you're making it out to be, Kevin.
Yeah, I just don't. Kidding. Yeah, I just don't think kids with creativity today. I kind of wonder what's going to happen eventually when they're not just kind of, putzing around and whatnot.
Boredom leads to creating fun stuff to entertain yourself. And if you have to create it yourself, that makes a certain part of your brain work. And I don't know if we're working out that part of the brain.
If you said you were bored in my house, my mom would be, I've got something to do for you.
Oh, yeah,
I'll
never
make
said
sure
that. Yeah,
you're not
on
bored.
chore duty. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and honestly, it's kind of a reminder, too, I think, for adults, especially if you're in any kind of creative field. They do talk about our minds being overstimulated, and you need to park your brain and relax it for creative ideas to start coming. They say doing the dishes, driving without noise, taking a shower, things like that. That's usually where you might have your best ideas.
Take a walk without your phone.
Absolutely. But that's the key element. Do not stimulate your brain. Let it relax. Let it just kind of breathe a little bit and just kind of sit there, and then maybe the creative ideas will flow then. Another thing that we survived that would emotionally destroy kids today, dial-up internet. Yeah, I'd love to see my son going through the frustrations I used to have to do.
When it would make that fax machine noise and you were like, oh, please connect, please connect.
Yeah, or somebody would pick up the phone in the house and it would disconnect it, and then you have to start all over again and wait for their conversation to end. Having to write multiple drafts by hand. Do you remember that? Now, since we've had word processors, and you'd have to go back almost older than me because I had, the little computer when I was in elementary to middle school. But yeah, once upon a time, you'd hand draw things out. And sometimes teachers would even just make you still do it. They wanted it written out. They didn't want it on a computer.
I think that is good for the brain. I get why you want to do things digitally, but I think writing things out on paper, it comes out different. It just does. At least for me, it does.
I do it all the time. I know I look like a dinosaur, but I don't care. It's how my brain works.
I think some people recommend doing that, especially if you're doing a journal.
Yep. They say it's one of the best ways to really commit things to memory is you need to write them out.
I couldn't imagine journaling on the computer.
It doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel right.
Another thing that would get kids today is no autosave. You know, when we used to lose stuff and something would happen, your computer would glitch and it would just turn off for whatever reason, and you come back, you knew it. Like, all your stuff was gone. Start all over again.
I think if you just took away even something like a Uber Eats, or they would go and lose their mind.
DoorDash?
I can't order my coffee right to my door.
A lot of these things absolutely would throw kids for a loop. Passing notes in class instead of texting. And you remember, too, if your note got caught, sometimes the teacher would make you read it out loud in front of everybody.
Or you try to give it to somebody and it somehow got lost.
Somebody would steal, the jerk would steal, and then they pass it around the playground.
Yes. That was well, there's one teacher that if you got caught writing notes, they'd grab it and read your note in front of the entire class. It was great entertainment.
Also, calling your friend's house. Remember that skill if you had to talk to the parents?
Hated it.
You hated it, but it probably was good for you because sometimes kids now, they go without talking to adults at all. And if they ever do, it's kind of like how people mock that Gen Z stare where they just are like, their eyes are kind of going back and forth and they just don't know what to say. They freeze.
No one taught me how to do this.
Right. Like, I've never talked to an adult before. It's not my parent.
It would suck, though, when you were trying to date somebody, when you're young and you have to call the house and the dad would answer. You're like, hello, sir, how are you? And then they'd grill you a little bit.
Yeah. And kids today don't know what it's like to not be able to get your programming on demand. Do you remember once upon a time where when a show aired, that was it? You wouldn't see it again. So if you had something to do that you wanted to watch on a Friday night or Saturday night and there's a big party going on, it's one or the other.
Pick.
It wasn't like, I'll just watch it later. You're not watching it later.
I would argue that makes it a bit more special when you don't get it when you want it.
Yeah.
Because remember when you would see something on TV out of the blue, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's on.
Then I found it, yeah.
That's lost.
Yeah.
But is that feeling better than having it anytime you want?
I don't know.
You know, I think now I will take on demand all day long. But you're right, that would excite you. And kids today have no idea what that feeling is like. And then sometimes I remember you'd have a party and somebody would put the show on. You could see over in a room, some people were watching something and, you know, so that would kind of go on too. Do you remember when you used to have to order stuff from catalogs and then wait like 6 to 8 weeks to get it? And that anticipation, whereas now you get it the next day. Or even that day.
It's crazy to think about how quick Amazon makes stuff come to your door. Like, what?
I forget what it was, but I ordered something on Amazon at noon, and it was at my house by 3.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is weird.
But that's just what kids expect.
Right. That was kind of it. So.
But I think that makes us not patient people. I think ultimately it's bad for the spirit. Great for in the moment, but is it good for the overall, I don't know, human existence?
It would just be so fun to me, though, because a lot of stuff you can't get anymore. But if you could just set up your house in the world for your kids to live like it's 1984, it would just be so fun to watch my son Cannon, who's 17 now, just go through a week of living in the year 1984. I would love to just watch him.
It'd be a fun experiment.
Oh, my gosh. I'd give anything for that.
The only content he could consume was anything from 1984 or before. That's it. That's all he could watch.
1984 week for our kids. Gosh, I would love that. That'd be amazing.